Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Today I'll talk about 4 U.S. presidents: Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, and James Garfield. Andrew Johnson was 17th U.S. president. He served from 1865 to 1869. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1808, Johnson grew up in poverty. He was apprenticed to a tailor as a boy but ran away. He opened a tailor shop in Greenville, Tennessee, married Eliza McCardle, and participated in debates at a local academy. Although an honest and honorable man, Andrew Johnson was one of the most unfortunate of presidents. Arrayed against him were the radical Republicans in Congress, brilliantly led and ruthless in their tactics. Johnson was no match for them. By the time Congress met in December 1865, most southern states were reconstructed. Slavery was being abolished, but black codes to regulate the freedmen were beginning to appear. Radical Republicans in Congress moved vigorously to change Johnson's program. They gained support of Northerners who were dismayed to see Southerners keeping many pre-war leaders and imposing many pre-war restrictions upon Negroes. The Radicals' first step was to refuse to seat any senator or representative from the old Confederacy. Next, they passed measures dealing with the former slaves. Johnson vetoed the legislation. The Radicals mustered enough votes in Congress to pass legislation over his veto, the first time the Congress had overridden the president on an important bill. They passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which established Negroes as American citizens and forbade discrimination against them. In March 1867, the Radicals effected their own plan of Reconstruction, again placing southern states under military rule. They passed laws placing restrictions upon the president. When Johnson allegedly violated one of these, the Tenure of Office Act, by dismissing Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton, the House voted 11 articles of impeachment against him. He was tried by the Senate in the spring of 1868 and acquitted by 1 vote. In 1875, Tennessee returned Johnson to the Senate. He died a few months later. Ulysses S. Grant was the 18th U.S. president. He served 2 terms from 1869 to 1877. Born in 1822, Grant was the son of Ohio Tanner. He went to the West Point rather against his will and graduated in the middle of his class. In the Mexican War, he fought under General Zachary Taylor. At the outbreak of the Civil War, Grant was working in his father's leather store in Galena, Illinois, and was appointed by the governor to command an unruly volunteer regiment. Grant whipped it into shape, and by September 1861 he had risen to the rank of Brigadier General of Volunteers. He sought to win control of the Mississippi Valley. In February 1862, he took Fort Henry and attacked Fort Donelson. When the Confederate commander asked for terms, Grant replied, "No terms except an unconditional and immediate surrender can be accepted." The Confederates surrendered, and President Lincoln promoted Grant to Major General of Volunteers. At Shiloh in April, Grant fought one of the bloodiest battles in the West and came out less well. President Lincoln fended off demands for his removal by saying, "I can't spare this man, he fights." For his next major objective, Grant maneuvered and fought skillfully to win Vicksburg, the key city on the Mississippi, and thus cut the Confederacy in two. Then he broke the Confederate hold of Chattanooga. Grant allowed radical Reconstruction to run its course in the South, bolstering it at times with military force. Lincoln appointed him General-in-Chief in March 1864. Grant directed Sherman to drive through the South, while he himself, with the Army of the Potomac, pinned down General Robert E. Lee, Army of Northern Virginia. After retiring from the presidency, Grant became a partner in a financial firm which went bankrupt. About that time, he learned that he had a cancer of the throat. He started writing his recollections to pay off his debts and provide for his family, racing against death to produce a memoir that ultimately earned nearly $450,000. Soon after completing the last page in 1885, he died. Julia Dent Grant was his spouse. Rutherford B. Hayes was the 19th U.S. President. He served from 1877 to 1881. Born in Ohio in 1822, Hayes was educated at Kenyon College and Harvard Law School. After 5 years of law practice in Lower Sandusky, he moved to Cincinnati, where he flourished as a young Whig lawyer. Beneficiary of the most fiercely disputed election in American history, Rutherford B. Hayes brought to the executive mansion dignity, honesty, and moderate reform. To the delight of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, Lucy Webb Hayes carried out her husband's orders to banish wines and liquors from the White House. He fought in the Civil War, was wounded in action, and rose to the rank of Brevet Major General. While he was still in the Army, Cincinnati Republicans ran him for the House of Representatives. He accepted the nomination but would not campaign, explaining, "An officer fit for duty who at his cries would abandon his post to electioneer ought to be scalped." Safe liberalism, party loyalty, and a good war record made Hayes an acceptable Republican candidate in 1876. He opposed Governor Samuel J. Tilden of New York. Although a galaxy of famous Republican speakers and even Mark Twain stumped for Hayes, he expected the Democrats to win. Hayes pledged protection of the rights of Negroes in the South, but at the same time advocated the restoration of wise, honest, and peaceful local self-government. This meant the withdrawal of troops. Hayes hoped such conciliatory policies would lead to the building of a new Republican Party in the South, to which white businessmen and conservatives would rally. Hayes had announced in advance that he would serve only one term and retired to Spiegel Grove, his home in Fremont, Ohio, in 1881. He died in 1893. James I. Garfield was the 20th U.S. President. He served in 1881. He was born in Cuyahoga County, Ohio in 1831. Fatherless at 2, he later drove canal boat teams, somehow earning enough money for an education. He was graduated from Williams College in Massachusetts in 1856, and he returned to the Western Reserve Eclectic Institute, later Hiram College, in Ohio as a classic professor. Within a year, he was made its president. In 1862, when Union military victories had been few, he successfully led a brigade at Middle Creek, Kentucky against Confederate troops. At 31, Garfield became a brigadier general, 2 years later a major general of volunteers. Foreign Affairs, Garfield's Secretary of State, invited all American republics to a conference to meet in Washington in 1882. But the conference never took place. On July 2, 1881, in a Washington railroad station, an embittered attorney who had sought a consular post shot the president. Mortally wounded, Garfield lay in the White House for weeks. Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the telephone, tried unsuccessfully to find the bullet within an induction balance electrical device which he had designed. On September 6th, Garfield was taken to the New Jersey seaside. For a few days he seemed to be recuperating, but on September 19, 1881, he died from an infection of an internal hemorrhage. He was married to Lucretia Rudolph Garfield. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Prezi signing out. Bye.